Hello, everyone. This week we are going to talk about the middle adulthood stage of lifespan development. In middle adulthood, which begins at the age of 40 and extends all the way up to age 65, we begin to see a number of physical changes. And I know these all too well because I am a middle adult. We begin to see changes in the skin, including wrinkles. We also see changes in eyesight. In fact, right on cue, I started to need reading glasses when I was about 42. So that is something that's absolutely typical, even for those who have never had any vision issues, but around the age of the early 40s is needing to have some sort of reading glasses. We also see changes in bones. The bones are becoming more brittle. A lot of people do the bone density test and even get on some kind of medications to help them with their bone density. There's even some natural supplements as well. We also see changes in hair, mostly with the graying and thinning of hair. We see changes in weight. It's harder for middle-aged adults to lose weight and to keep the weight off. It's the weight around the middle and the belly area. So we also see women experiencing menopause during the middle adult years. So when you think of middle adulthood, is the midlife crisis the first thing that pops into your mind? If it is, you're not alone. In fact, everyone has heard of the midlife crisis. I think that I probably heard of it when I was in elementary school. And we always associated it with some man, middle adult, buying a race car. So is this really reality, or is it just a myth? Does the midlife crisis even exist? There's been a lot of research on the midlife crisis, and what we found is that only about 23% of adults experience a midlife crisis. And it's usually triggered by some major life event, such as a death, a divorce, a job loss, some major economic situation, such as what happened with COVID and the current inflation. So really what we're seeing is the midlife crisis, just like any age, there's some sort of crises that happen. In fact, the midlife crisis, the people that do report experiencing it, the 23%, note that that they experienced it before the age of 40 or after the age of 50. So there seems to be some kind of increased risk factors during those age groups. So think about that, and think about even how that ties into depression, anxiety, as people start to think about things and their regrets. The midlife crisis ties into a lot of mental health struggles during the middle adulthood years. We see a tremendous increase in the amount of stress as well as depression. In fact, women between the ages of 40 and 59 have the highest rate of depression when compared to any other age group. There's a number of reasons for this, including biological reasons. Women are going through a lot of changes during this time period, but there's also a lot of emotional issues, including empty nesting, changes in relationships. So there's a number of things that contribute to increased depression for this age. We also see an increase in suicide, especially among middle-aged white men between the ages of 45 and 54. So just a huge increase in all types of mental issues and mental struggles during this middle adulthood years. What we see is what they call is a U-shaped curve, and that means that The happiness, of course, we are happy in childhood, and that tends to show a decrease through adolescence and young adulthood, but is especially at its lowest point during middle adulthood. So we see what's called this happiness slump. And then this takes a upward turn as towards the later adulthood stage and into older adulthood. Middle adulthood is also associated with empty nesting. Empty nesting is a time when our adult children leave the nest. They go off to college, they might be getting married, they might be leaving for a new job or some adventure away from home. So this can be a time of excitement for middle adult parents, or it could also be a time of stress and anxiety. I am experiencing this right now. I am empty nesting. My girls, both of them, left the nest at about the same time. One went off to college, and one of them was finishing college, and she got married. So it was definitely, and it still is challenging. I think really what we experience is a little bit of an identity crisis, because I was a single mom for most of my girls' life. So I really poured my energy and my life and even my identity into them. And so when they left the nest, I felt confused and almost as though I really didn't have an identity, because it had been tied to them for so many years. So really, I've had to kind of learn who I am without them. So this can be trying and challenging at the same time. And it's a little bit like what we talked about with the midlife crisis. The midlife crisis is, in some respects, almost like an identity crisis, almost like that sense of, wait, who am I? So with empty nesting, we really have to recognize that, especially for those of you who might be going into the counseling field. We have to recognize that in our clients and understand how we can help them work through this challenging time in their life and learn and grow from it. So really with me even, I had to learn how to connect with community. I had to, really pour myself into other activities because my kids didn't need me anymore. They were adults. They were no longer taking up all my time. So I really found myself needing to connect with others in different ways, whether it be my church and Bible study, or just other activities in the community, volunteer work, that kind of thing. So it's like, so the important thing that we have to do at this age and at this stage of empty nesting is make connections. Another characteristic of middle adulthood is sandwiching, or what we refer to as a sandwich generation. This simply means that the middle adult is being pulled by both generations, by his or her older adult parents, and then by the children. So there's this push and this pull of, trying to be everything to and take care of the older adults while also taking care of the children at the same time. Again, this can be a real struggle. I mean, it creates a lot of conflicts. I mean, even sometimes there's a lot of financial costs involved, and there's a lot of emotions involved, because we're seeing a huge role reversal where now the middle adults have become the caretakers for their parents. So they're taking care of the parents instead of the parents taking care of them. In fact, I'm seeing this and experiencing this in my own life as well, as my parents are almost 80 and going through some physical challenges and as well as some cognitive ones. And so, in fact, it wasn't too long ago that I went to their house in Florida, which is, I'm in Texas, so it was a little ways away from me. So I went to their house to take care of them. While I was there, my college-age daughter started having some issues. She broke up with her boyfriend, was experiencing some challenges. So then I felt like I needed to be here with her. So it was a real struggle, and of course I had to decide what to do. I wanted to be with all people at the same time, but there's just one of me. So it's definitely a struggle, and just a struggle with caretaking. But it's also reward. We want to be able to give back to, our parents, and we really want to take care of them and want to make sure that they are, appreciated and valued. So along with all the tasks and the changes comes personality. But what's interesting is personality traits become more stable during middle adulthood. So they're pretty much ingrained. This is it. They're probably not going to change. So a lot of research has looked into that, and they've used the Big Five. You can take the Big Five at the link that I provided. It's kind of fun. It's not necessarily my favorite personality test, but it is fun. They give you 5 dimensions, and they rate you on those 5 different dimensions. Of course, those 5 dimensions, now remember, are not particular specific personality traits, but within those 5 dimensions are personality traits. So go ahead and give it a try and just have fun with it. So Erickson described generativity versus stagnation is one of the psychosocial stages of development that occur during the middle adulthood lifespan stage. And so what exactly is generativity? Generativity is really about finding purpose, finding our place, feeling as though we belong, whereas stagnation is just the opposite. It's feeling stuck, as though we don't have any purpose. So really what's important during this middle adulthood stage, especially is what I talked about previously, once the kids leave the nest and you're empty nesting, you're going through all these different emotions, is to find your purpose. Find your purpose now that you've raised your children, because raising children during that young adulthood stage is pivotal. And now that you're in middle adulthood and your children are beginning to leave the nest, it's so important to find that purpose and that meaning outside of being a parent. Otherwise, what will happen is we will end up stagnant. We feel like we don't have a purpose. And this is where the depression comes into play. We talked about earlier the high rates of depression among women during this stage, and this is one of the reasons for that, is because of that feeling of lack of purpose. So really what we want to do is help find purpose, whether it's for ourselves or whether we're going to the counseling field and it's helping our clients find purpose during this stage. Because what happens is we start to look at life and see that, oh my goodness, time is running out. And instead of looking at it from that kind of bleak perspective, so we have to change that perception and see that this is going to be the best years of our life. We have purpose, we have meaning. And what is that purpose? What is that meaning? And how can we contribute to society in positive and productive ways?